Steve, the world today is not what it was when you and I went to college. And getting ready for talking to you, I was thinking about college served a purpose. It helped me. I enjoyed my time spent in college. But I'm hearing more and more people say, maybe it's not what it's all cracked up to be. We don't really need that anymore. It may not be as viable as it used to. The whole learning process isn't
Mhm.
what it was during the industrial age. What do you say to those nervous parents that could be listening to this podcast about, is college worth the expense today?
Well, if we're speaking to an audience of Americans, I think you first have to address the fact that the cost of education at the university level is higher in the United States than anywhere in the world. One of the few countries that doesn't underwrite it. I do a lot of work, as you know, in Portugal, and the annual tuition there for most schools is about $1,000.
Ooh.
And here we're talking upwards of 40, 50, 60, 70, in some cases $100,000 a year for the university experience. So what that does when you have a high price point is make people look and say, am I getting the value of what I'm paying? That's a big number to stare down. If you're paying somewhere between 200 and $400,000 over 4 years, when are you going to get the return? So I have three boys, one's in college and two who are seniors in high school. Do I want my kids to experience that? Do I think it's worth the time and the effort? And 100% my answer is yes. Not necessarily just for purely academic reasons. Dealing with things like having a difficult roommate, having a teacher whose grading philosophy you don't agree with, having to be on teams, having to face multiple deadlines, having to dive into subjects that are not in your wheelhouse is so healthy for a frontier of work that's filled with lots of new challenges. And the advent of AI is really forcing a great conversation, which is, what should we learn? What
Mm-hmm.
is AI going to cover for us that we might have needed to learn in school before? And what makes us uniquely human? And what's going to give us the most value in the future of work through an education experience? And I think what's happening with the education, and again, this is not my area of expertise, but I think about it a lot as a parent, especially. I think what's happening is the consumer, this potential student, and the parents who are going to pay for this are asking this more actively than universities are around how we should reshape our curriculum and reshape our experience for future work. So I think they're out of kilter a little bit. And I'm seeing some schools adjust, but I feel like schools are lagging where they could be leading right now. And I'm not blaming schools, but how they've been built and how they, are built around tenure for professors. Like, you're here forever if you
Yep.
do really good work, not necessarily you're here because you're delivering new value every year. There's some old archetypes of how the model works. So
Yeah.
it's a really interesting question, right,
Yeah.
Ro? I mean, it's super interesting,
It
and like many frontiers of work, this is a place that's feeling the reverberations of all the changes.